go back into a traditional sermon. And the question I want to ask you and have you reflect on is, who is Jesus to you? I know that we have experience in how would we explain Jesus to someone that doesn't know who Jesus is. But in your personal relationship with Jesus, how would you describe who Jesus is, and who is Jesus specifically to you? And I'm going to sit back down for about 2 minutes because I think it's that important that we always know who Jesus is to us. And then I want to share who Jesus is to me. And I think that may be one of the best ways for you to get to know me. And then we're going to tie it into Revelation 3. So just take a couple of minutes and think about who Jesus is. And I'm not going to ask you to share it. This is personal, and just want it to be something that may be helpful. I wanted to do that with you this morning because I had something occur on Tuesday. It's a requirement with the Methodist denomination. You have to take some psychological tests. You have to have 4 letters of recommendation. You have to do a psych eval with a licensed PhD psychologist for 2 hours, and there are other things, but that gets to the highlights. And I was nervous about Tuesday. Tuesday I got my psychological results, and my 2-hour session with the psychologist, who, thank goodness, was a Methodist minister first and a psychologist later, because I'm always nervous about being assigned someone in the mental health field that I don't know and didn't have a say in. But it was a good experience. And, you know, to tell you why I was worried is I've taken those tests before, and I took those tests in a dark place in life, and I needed to know those results so that I could heal and recover and be different. But those tests reveal some stuff that you don't want anybody outside of you, a therapist, and maybe somebody in a religious position to know. But my test came back with a clean bill of health. And I was just so overwhelmed that how broken I was and how many problems that I had. I thought they would still show up when tested again later, but they weren't there. And it kind of transformed me because I thought that I had been healed. And I define healing as you were broken, we fixed you as best we could, you're going to run fine, but never the way you were. And I see cured as you never had it in the first place if you didn't know. And it was wonderful to feel cured and validated there. And one of the most profound conversations we had in that therapy session was he asked me who Jesus was to me. And what I describe Jesus as is he's the world's best older brother. He looks out for me, he protects me, he's always with me. He knows what I've been through. Or maybe he's the perfect father, the dad who knows the right thing to say or how to pick me up and how to direct me so that maybe I can avoid some of the pitfalls and mistakes that Dad made over the years, and maybe I won't have to go through those struggles. And what he explained to me and where it really became profound is most Christians will identify Jesus when they describe Jesus as either a friend or a teacher. And he is both, and both are correct, but usually one takes a priority over the other. I know that Jesus is my friend. I know that Jesus is my teacher, but he's a friend in my mind first, and he's a teacher second. And to get why that's profound, I want to also just mention, there are those who see Jesus as a teacher first and then a friend second. And those that see Jesus as a teacher first, their faith grows when things like this week, archaeologists believe they have found the city where St. Peter was born, and they've unearthed that. And for somebody who sees Jesus as a teacher, that adds to their faith. Or the translation of a new Dead Sea Scroll further validates and adds to their faith. And they go on a mission to search out other things that can be known or taught through Jesus, and their faith grows that way. To give you an example of someone who would be Jesus is a teacher first and a friend second, I imagine every seminary professor sees Jesus as a teacher first, and it grows their faith so strong they become a professor themselves so that they can share what they've learned and how it's changed their life and may impact a person on their journey. With me seeing Jesus as a friend first, my faith grows through what I've seen, what I've experienced, what I've seen others go through, their story, and it's more about when I see somebody hit rock bottom, go to God, get redeemed, and recover. That makes my faith stronger. That's how my faith has become stronger over the years. I either saw something, felt something, or knew of somebody else who experienced something. And it's helped me so much in that session to know that, because he was able to give me some advice and also some things to look out for. And while I've always known in my heart Shiloh and Gilgal are the right places for me, it's been hard for me to communicate what those reasons are. I've always said things like, well, I'm familiar with the Abbeville area. The people are great. They're loving. There's hope in both places. But to take that a step further, and with me and seeing Jesus as my friend, he told me, you're going to love being assigned to smaller congregations. You're going to want to connect with people on a one-on-one level so that you can learn from them and they can learn from you. You do not want to get an appointment that takes you away from that style of ministry. You would not do well in a place where there's 10 required meetings a week. You've got to deal with a budget and committees, and that is a hard administrative load, and I'm glad there are people to do that, but that is not the best place for me. And he mentioned that maybe clinical pastoral counseling would be a good career path for me, but he also mentioned that with my test scores and my personality, stay out of being a professor at seminary. You're not going to like that, because you're only going to see people 3 times a week for a couple of hours. And then he said, I hope you don't get back-to-back appointments where the churches are not interested in growth and relationship and development and friendship, because if you get 2 back-to-back appointments where that's the case, you're going to think the problem is you and that you were actually not equipped for ministry. And just to take a lighthearted stance on that, it reminded me of something my uncle said. I'll pray for you so you never get assigned to No Hope Methodist Church. That's a hard place to serve. So that helped put better into words why I feel so home and connected here. If I don't know who you are and can't call you by name and don't know things about you, and you don't know things about me, and this is a transactional situation, that would be devastating to me. But you've opened your hearts, you've opened your homes, you've become a friend, and my faith grows as I see what you go through and how it changes you. And every time something changes me or I feel something different, I want to get in the pulpit and share it, because that's what I think grows us the most, if you see Jesus in the same respect as I do. And again, both are correct, and he is both. So all of that does, in a roundabout way, lead us into Revelation 3. John writes Revelation. And how appropriate for John to be the one with that assignment. If you want to get technical with biblical scholars, of the 12 disciples, all of them will say John Street was the best. And there's no doubt John was a genius, and there's no doubt that John saw Jesus as a friend, because when it came to the day at the cross, one disciple showed up, and that was John. And John was there because Jesus was his friend, and he knew it was going to be a tough day. And when your friend has a very tough day ahead, you at least go to be with them, because maybe that will provide some comfort. And I think it would take a genius to write what John experienced when Jesus arrived behind him and what he saw Jesus as then. And then he gets a glimpse into heaven, and he needs to describe that as well. And there are no words that have been invented in the human language in 95 AD to describe either what Jesus is at that moment or what heaven is at that moment. But John goes to the metaphor to explain it. If you look in Revelation, you will see the word like so many times. Jesus' hair was like white wool. Heaven was like. And he's able to take something not only so complex, but explain it in a way that people can understand, but the language hasn't yet been created. And, you know, John was in exile at the end of his life. Rome had put him on an island in the sea, and I think there's a lesson there for us as well. John's isolated. Nobody comes to John. But when you are in isolation, you are so less likely to be distracted, especially if something important comes to you. John was not distracted on that island. There was nothing but water all around him. And there's no chance of John leaving. We know from biblical writings, everybody's scared of the sea. It's a rough thing that you can't explain. And sometimes friends go out there and they don't come back. So while John is exiled, and it seems like such an inappropriate place for one of the disciples to be, we get a beautiful book in the Bible to finish the holy book. And here's why I think John 3, and specifically those verses, are so powerful. And then as you look at Revelation, the first 7 chapters as a whole, we are guaranteed that good is going to triumph over evil. We are a fallen people who have come up short, sin every day, but through prayer and humbleness and believing, we're included in the victory. The victory, it was stated in the scriptures, is for all of us. And I got to thinking about how much comfort there is in inclusion. I assume you probably had some feelings like Muriel and I when your children started to school. I hope they make some friends. I hope they get included. Because I know what it's like to not be. And that's a tough way to start. It's certainly going to be hard to tell a person they got to get up and do it again in the morning, if that's the case. And that's the beauty of what God and Jesus has offered us here. This is for all of us. And we're going to win. And we were so fortunate in the elementary school that Benjamin was in. The parents got together early and said, if you're going to have a child's birthday party, invite the whole class or none of the class. And because of that, a group of friends developed in that 15-person classroom that became very close-knit. Played together at school, learned together at school, but they played and learned outside of school as well. And it was such a beautiful thing to see, because you can see in young children what you hope it would be as an adult. And if you can see it lived out in children, that means it is possible to live that out as an adult. You can find places of inclusion. You can be accepted. Here's a perfect example. There's inclusion and offering to all who walk through that door. And I see the friendships and the family ties, and that's a powerful thing, because that becomes so powerful in the good times and the bad, because I can't imagine some of the greatest things in my life that have happened if it happened to me when I was by myself. And I can't imagine getting through the rough water all on my own. But in the good times, I had somebody to celebrate with. In the bad times, I had somebody help row the boat. And it made all the difference. And that's what we're learning from John here. And as I mentioned, John was there at the cross. What could John do for Jesus? But Jesus lets him know what his friend John could do. Behold thy mother. And when Jesus uttered those words, John took Mary into his house to be his family for the rest of her life. And we talked about the simplicity of John's revelation and how he went about that with the metaphor. But what a powerful message he has to us. And those who overcome are rewarded. And even if we have found our salvation and baptism and our belief, that doesn't end the rough waters, and that doesn't end the challenges. And we're going to have challenges, and life is complicated and life is hard. So as a result, life will test us. And in those tests, it is so comforting to know that, one, I know I can overcome it through Jesus. Two, if I do overcome it, John has explicitly described what my reward is for that. And we're all going to be in that place and a need to overcome. Because I'll ask you one question rhetorically. When you thought about your life at 20 years old and what it would be, are you living that life right now? Are you living all those expectations and dreams? I doubt it, because who I've found that life goes exactly the way they want, and they get everything they dream of and desire, they fade out very quickly. Elvis got all his dreams met at 19 years old. Elvis didn't make it to be an old man. I can give you at least 100 more examples. Popular culture or people I know, their life did work out as they envisioned, and it was short. So I imagine that all of us here, like myself, are living a life different than what they imagined. But I will say this, I also didn't imagine how life could be so good. And that's what I've felt over the last 23 months, peace and a comfort and joy that I don't know that there's English words invented yet to describe that. So I will say it is as soft as a mountain stream, as high as a mountain in the Rockies, and as beautiful as the Grand Canyon, because I don't know how to put into words what I've felt and what's happened to me. And like the scripture says, it's for all of us. And you may be dealing with a challenge now that you're going to have to overcome. Or there may be one on the horizon, or maybe you can think back to a big one that you did overcome. Maybe that becomes your Ebenezer and makes your faith and strength even that much stronger. And here's the other beautiful thing when we read the four Gospels. No matter where you come from, and no matter what God does to redeem you and restore you, Jesus answered to society, not you, not the sinner in the book who was redeemed publicly and the group around criticized Jesus. Why this one? Look how broken, look how much sin, look at the leprosy, look at the choice of career. You made a mistake with this one. And the beauty is the sinner in the situation never had to speak up. Jesus spoke on behalf of that sinner. So wherever you are in your walk today, if not immediately, may you soon come to the same place I am right now and be able to sing with conviction, "It